Should we start?
It's is what time right now?
Almost nine.
9:30. Yeah, let's just wait like 5 minutes. See if more people join and then get started. All right. So, Akshay, I think we should get started.
Yeah,
Hi everyone. Thank you to those who joined. My name is Raj, and before we delve into the session, let me and Akshay just introduce ourselves a little bit. My name is Raj, and I graduated from UC Berkeley with a master's degree in May, and I work at Microsoft as an ML engineer, and my focus is data science, machine learning, and its intersection with computer security. Akshay, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
yeah, sure. Firstly, thanks to everyone who have joined us for this session, and hopefully we'll be able to help you think better on how to create the resume. About me, I'm in the I'm from UC Berkeley. I'm also a master student from the same batch like Raj from the same program, and I was also focusing on data science. And I'm currently working as a data scientist at PayPal, working in fraud detection and risk management.
Great. So the goal of today's session is basically to talk about how you make your resume and what points do you highlight in your resume and how do you get your resume picked up. And at the end, we'll also touch upon how do you actually get the stuff that you need to put in your resume. So we'll be talking about a variety of things. So let's get started. So should I go first, Akshay?
Yeah, 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 sure.
Okay. So the first thing that you need to keep in mind for a good resume is the format. Now, recruiters look at hundreds of resumes a day. So a poorly formatted resume is really a turnoff. So, your resume should have at least four important sections. So those are your education, your experience, your skills, and then your projects. Anything apart from that is going to be extra. So you're going to have these four things in your resume, and anything other than that, like volunteering experience or any other achievements, they should be put at the end if you have space. Your resume should be one page only, not more than one page. It should be preferably made in latex. So after the live video is done, I will add the Overleaf link in the description box. Overleaf is a tool which helps you write latex code easily and makes a well formatted resume. So I can share mine and Akshay's resumes as a template on Overleaf, and you could probably use that. So use Overleaf to make your resume. Have these four critical sections, and the order of these sections is also important. Uh, you should begin always with education. That helps recruiters classify you into an industry candidate or a university grad, because the hiring processes are pretty different for both of those streams. So have education at the top, then talk about your skills, then talk about your experience, and then talk about any projects you may have done. As I said, any other part like volunteering should come at the end. Companies do value those things like volunteering and such additional experiences, but to be honest, like a company is not going to hire you because you volunteered a lot. So that's just going to be something supplementary to your profile. So yeah, that's the first very important point. Use latex and overleaf to format your resume properly. So we didn't even touch the content yet, but just the format, how the resume should look. That's important, and latex gives you that professional look. Akshay,
Yeah,
do you want to have anything to add or something else to
yeah.
say?
Sure, sure, sure. So, like as Raj said, I completely agree with what he said. Like regarding the format, there are four important sections that you should focus on, and if you have like space, strictly like if you have like less than 5 years of experience, strictly it should be a one-page resume. If you have more experience, then you can maybe like go one and a half, but usually it's not recommended when you're like applying straight from school. The next thing about like having those four sections, these are the most critical sections that employers look at, HRs look at, and they want to focus on that. If you have anything extra like awards or volunteer opportunities, you can always add it at the end, a couple of points, 3 points, and yeah, that's one thing. Regarding like where to create your resume, Overleak is one option that provides like free access to latex and so you can use that. But if you're not comfortable with latex and you feel it's going to take a lot of time, then obviously like you don't have to like learn LaTeX just for the resume. If you're comfortable with Microsoft Word, you can create a very good resume with Microsoft Word too. And it's always better to like create your own template because you want your ideas to flow as per your way. So picking up some template from outside may not work as well, and also might not be ATS compliant, which we're gonna discuss later on.
Yeah, I think the good thing about overleaf is probably also that you can sort of just put in the stuff and fill in the template. Yeah, Akshay, do you want to talk about anything else?
Sorry, Raj. I think your audio is not like loud enough.
Okay, hold on. Is it better now?
Is it back? Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Also,
Um,
my echoing, I think.
yeah, I think is my voice also echoing? I don't know why it happened suddenly. Is YouTube muted on your end?
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, is Akshay's voice still echoing? Guess no one put it in the chat, and also there's some lag. So let's
Yeah.
go ahead, and if people point out, then we can see
Okay.
what to do about the lag. Okay. Yeah.
Could you repeat your question?
Yeah, no, not a question. I just said that if people do want to use LaTeX, they don't necessarily have to learn LaTeX, but they can, if there's templates and they're comfortable with using a template, you can just fill in your information in that. In case you want to use LaTeX but are not comfortable learning the script, basically. Okay, looks like the
Yeah.
voice is all right now, no echoes. So, yeah. Do you want
Should
to
we?
talk about like something like another point like about the projects or anything you have to add?
Yeah. Should we talk about like the content now,
Sure. Yeah.
or not
Yeah.
discuss the format? So we can move ahead with the content. So usually, I can cover like each section one by one. So we are focusing on four sections. The first one is education. So normally, if you're applying to grad schools, you would like normally have just the bachelor's degree, and you would have your 12th percentage, etc. And for applying to jobs in in uh, in anywhere like right after grad school or for an internship, you would have your master's education as well. So usually, how we would do it from like our personal experience, you would mention the degree you're doing, like the exact degree, your college, when did you start. The timelines are important so that the employer can know. And of course, like it's always better to mention the course well. So in terms of like so that the employer could know like this is what your focus is. It's also better if you can like have something um, like what's your focus area in the education, because some education degrees can be very broad and wide. So they want to know, let's say you're applying for a machine learning engineer, then you want to have a focus there that hey, my focus is machine learning, or hey, my focus is data science. That's always a better impression you're leaving on the recruiter. um, the next one, work experience or just experience. You want to list down any internship experience, work experiences that you've had, um, and any research internships that you've had, and have like listed at least a minimum of 3 bullet points for each of the experiences, so that there's like enough content. And if you've worked like maybe like 2 or 3 years, it's okay to have like 4 to 5 bullet points depending on the space. Um, Usually people would have like at least 2 to 3 different companies, like, or depending on the experience, like you can have like, I think Raj had research internships at various places in India, so he listed that. And it kind of grows when you do an internship and then you apply to full-time jobs, so you have additional experience, so you cut down on the previous part. So it depends on what stage of like uh, your application you are at. The third one is projects. Now, projects are very critical. anytime you go for an interview, the employers, the managers always ask like, what have you worked on, like in grad school, or what's an interesting project you worked on. In your statement of purpose, you always talk about projects first, like how is it related, how the project's related to what you've done previously, what are you going to do in the future. Sorry. So projects are important. You want to have at least like, if you're not having a paragraph, at least two bullet points which uh, like tell the user. I usually follow the star format: situation, task, action, result. That's how I like frame a bullet point. And you can use anything like that works for you, but it's important to mention metrics. Important to bold the metrics so that there's some form of like measurement that's being used to see how your project or whatever you were working on, how it performed. Something like, hey, like my project, like I did a data science project, the accuracy was 97%, and compared to like previous papers, it was like a little more than that, 2% more than that. So that's a good indication. Just mentioning, hey, I did this, like I built a tool to analyze stocks. That's not telling the user, the recruiter or the manager or anything. You want to go at the last a couple of sections, Raj?
Yeah, and I'd just like to add that while you talk about skills, I think the skills are really important. Sorry, the projects are really important, mainly for freshers, because people who are university grads don't really have a ton of work experience to show for themselves. So projects is basically how they're going to showcase their skills to hiring managers and companies. So you did talk about your education and and projects and experience. I'll just take a go at the skills section. Um so depending on the job you're applying for, depending on the role you're applying for, the skills could change. But in general, you should classify your skills as much as you can. So, for example, in my resume, I have skills as 4 bullet points. The first bullet point is programming, and I write all the programming languages I know. The second bullet point is web, so I write all the web technologies I know, like Angular, JavaScript, whatever. Then one point is data, where I write about the data tools that I know. So includes MongoDB, SQL, Tableau, all of those things, and so on. You might have different skill sets depending on what role you're going into, what your education and background is. So I think do those, and also try to mention what toolkits or frameworks you used in each project, so that further highlights your skills. Not just as a bullet point in your resume, but you actually know how to put that particular skill in action. I think that does cover all of the sections of the resume, right? The education, the experience, the skills, and the projects. And of course,
Yeah.
at the end, you have space. If you have space, write your achievements or co-curricular activities like volunteering, any presentations, any awards you have received. You can mention them or at the end as bullet points, as much as the space permits you.
Yeah. I think for the last section, I'd like to add like, you can like be specific for the awards like you've done, and it should be relevant to the position you're applying to. Like if like something is not really relevant, you don't need to add that, and you can also space out your resume so you can have like more space, a more clean resume.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think that's a
and
good.
also like for award. Sorry, Raj, you were saying something.
No, no, no. Go on. Mine is yours seems more
Yeah,
relevant.
if for awards, etc., you can also include them. Some people also include them within the education and the experience section. If you won an award for while working somewhere, you can just like mention it within that and just highlight it. And if you won some scholarship from university, you can mention within the education section. So there's not even a need to create a separate section.
Yeah. And to your point about mentioning the relevant achievements or awards, I think that's a good segue into like the next point, which is you should really customize your resume according to every job you're applying for. So what some people do I've seen is have like a stock resume which has lots of things thrown into it, lots of skills, lots of projects. lots of achievements and awards, and they send that resume everywhere. I really don't like this practice. What you should do ideally is have a master resume which lists everything that you do, everything that you can, and for every role that you're applying to, pick and choose the most relevant ones. Read the job description carefully. The job descriptions often say what skills they're looking for, or what technology they want, what experiences they want. So, like, preferred, comfortable with numerical software, or preferred experience with deep learning frameworks. So if you do have any projects, do highlight those. Applying for a data scientist position, then don't necessarily highlight your web development projects. They're not going to add a ton to your profile. So don't have like a stock resume. Pick and choose your experiences, pick and choose your projects, and then write every resume separately for the particular role you're applying to. It's a lot of work. It's really easy to have one resume and just upload it any place that you want to, but this definitely gives more results. It definitely increases the chances of them looking at your resume and thinking, okay, this person shows these skills that we want. It's really helpful. So customize your resume for every small thing you apply to.
I completely agree with Raj. It is a better practice to customize your resume for every application, but sometimes I feel like it's not feasible, so you kind of phase out from that. I think it happens to everyone, so there's no need to worry. What you can do is one good practice, like which I did, was like you can create a master resume where you have like all your points listed. Let's say in your like one page resume, you have three bullet points for one work experience, but actually you might have done like 7 to 8 things there, so you can have 7 to 8 bullet points. And then when you're applying to a company, that's like you can just pick out the relevant points and put it right there. So you don't have to change the format. You have one resume, which is your master resume, and then you can like have multiple resumes for different companies, and like so it makes the job way easier.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good idea.
Um, should we proceed ahead?
Uh,
What else?
yeah, I think I do see a question though. Should we mention a language technology in skills if we have only done a project in it and, of course, don't know its working knowledge in depth? So, my answer would be yes. If you have done a project, you definitely know how to work your way around that particular skill or technology. uh, if they do select a resume, they do call you for an interview, they will ask you like what's your level of comfort with this, and then you can say I did this project in it and this is what I know. That's a good way, that's a good place to bring that up. But I think if you have done a project, you're pretty comfortable with it, you can do that.
One advice would be, so if you're not comfortable with the skill, what you can do is, let's take an example of programming languages. So let's say you're comfortable in Python and Java, but you're not so comfortable in C. So what you would do is, when you're writing skills, the programming languages, you put Java and Python first, and push the other languages, like which you just know, not like you're expert in it. You can just push it at the end, like within the skills section, so that when the employer asks you, it's like right there in like the first couple of languages. So that's one way to like tackle that, even if you're not comfortable with the language and you still want it there.
Yeah, makes sense. And someone asked if we could write down the tools we mentioned. Yeah, I can add them to the link after this is done.
Yeah, I think we just mentioned overleaf for
Uh,
LaTeX,
yeah,
and
LaTeX and Overleaf. Yeah, maybe some Overleaf templates. We can link them later in the description, I think.
there's a very famous one that people use.
Yeah,
That's very common
yeah,
across all most of the software engineering and data science roles.
yeah.
So we can definitely share that. If you have any more questions, you can just type in the chat, or you want us to discuss anything else from the resume perspective.
Yeah. Akshay, do you want to talk about the ATS compliance?
Yeah, so ATS compliance is a very tricky uh, topic to talk about. Like, um, it's not like it's like we actually don't like. I personally don't know how exactly the technology works, but one thing is that you want your resume to be formatted correctly, like in that particular order. You don't want any stray words hanging around or stray tables hanging around. You don't want like any lines in your resume. It should be like formatted correctly from top to down. Also, it's advisable to not have like two-column resumes because it's like it's a thing that it might not go into the ATS. Like it might not be like um, correctly formatted when you actually post it. One thing I used to check if my it was ATS compliant or not was I used Salesforce recruiting website to check like if it's being like formatted correctly when you upload it. It automatically loads your data into text boxes as per the question. So if it's like loading properly, then like it's a good thing. Like I read it somewhere, and what you can do is you can test your resume on these different company websites because all of these companies have their different versions of ATS. They've hired a third party, so you can like do it on 10 to 15 companies. There's no harm in, and see how your resume gets formatted when it's processed by the system. So that's one way to check. Like say the education section is there, and your automatically is formatted and your education goes into the experience section, so maybe you might need changes. Also, it's never perfect, so you don't need to worry if it's like not happening.
Yeah.
And all the websites because everyone does it differently.
Yeah, that's a good idea though. Checking it on a website and especially an engine like Salesforce, uh,
Mhm.
it gives you a good idea of what and the ATS is picking up. I do see a question about what kind of projects and work experience count in the resume for applying for masters. So I'm going to take this as like applying to grad school in general, masters or PhD. So what I think is that the kind of experience that matters is one which is relevant to the program you're applying for. When you apply for masters, you write an SOP, a statement of purpose, along with a resume. And in your SOP, you really tell or narrate like sort of why you're drawn towards that particular degree and those courses. So the work experience you do in general should support that goal. Only then it's a strong, a strong point in your favor in applying to grad school. Projects, I wouldn't say as much because as undergrads, we are not expected to have um, groundbreaking projects or contributions to research. So, mention all of the projects you have done, highlight those that are close to your goal. But I think in terms of work experience, it's really important that the experience you have had sort of aligns with your future goals. What do you say, Akshay? I think your previous work was at PwC, and that was also somewhat related to fraud, right?
Yeah, yeah. So like I completely agree with. You have to like talk about more relevant to what like you're applying for. You have to always like it's all about the story when you're applying to grad school. You have to connect the dots. You have to connect the story like what you had in bachelor's to the story you want ahead in your future. So basically connecting the dots. Obviously you can maneuver a lot because the grad school faculty don't know about like what you have done in the past, right? So you can maneuver a lot, but obviously like not like a lot. So you have to like manage that. Like if you have done cybersecurity, you can connect it to like management information systems degree and say that you want to do. If you want to do data science, you can always say that I want to explore data science and cybersecurity. That's a good story flow. But you can't say that I want to like do something in energy now. Like it doesn't connect the story unless you've done some energy projects in the past. So
Yeah.
yeah, always go for relevant and more connected experiences
Yeah.
to the grad school application.
Yeah, only then it adds value to your application, right? That you have an experience in that field, then it's it's like it's you're making yourself a stronger candidate basically for that program. Um, Another question about a Word or PDF upload. Yeah, PDF upload always. Never upload a resume in Word. And even if you're sending a resume to someone, always send a PDF, because the PDF will render in a similar fashion on everyone's devices. But a Word file will shift your sections up and down, shift the sentences, format them depending on how I open them. Do I download and open? Do I open it on a Mac? Do I view it in my phone? Do I just view it in the drive? It will change. But a PDF will have a constant. It will just render the same on all platforms. So always use a PDF for downloading, for uploading or sending your resume or any document really, unless you want people to edit it. There is a question on any suggestions for recent graduates with no work experience. So I can take this. I am a recent graduate. I was a recent graduate with no work experience. Uh, as I said before, for recent graduates, uh, it what mostly matters is your projects. Since you have no work experience, you should show your good projects, show your skills through your projects, and talk about what you have learned, what impact you have had. So I can, like, if you're a fresher and you're in grad school or you're in undergrad, do as many projects as you can. Do reach out to people, work with startups if you can, and have the ability to, and do as many projects as you can. That's the bottom line there. That's going to be really helpful, even for anyone graduating in general, but especially for people who have no work experience, because that's what you're judged on. Anything to add, Akshay, for freshers with no work ex?
Not really. I think you were in that section. So because you came with like no like work experience as such,
Yeah.
mostly research internships. So I think people can take a look at your resume and how you framed and connected the dots.
Mm-hmm.
Can be a good
Right.
follow up.
Yeah. There is another question on, can you tell me more about programming skills that might be helpful in a job search for industrial engineering, but specifically in ML? Not sure how to quite interpret it, because industrial engineering and ML inherently do not go hand in hand. There are, of course, ML roles and data science roles in industrial engineering, but I really have no idea as to what skills would be in demand for both roles. But um, for ML, I will say that your Python skills should be spot on, and you should have a strong command over the numerical packages for, so like, pandas, numpy, scipy, and all the statistical packages. If you know scikit-learn or any deep learning frameworks like TensorFlow, Keras, PyTorch, it's an added bonus, I think. Anything I'm missing, Akshay? Maybe Tableau. I'm not sure how much.
You can like also have like more statistical perspective because I think industrial engineering will have more statistical base in terms of knowledge. So maybe R can be useful or any other like statistical packages that involve R if you're not using Python.
Yeah, and I think IE and OR go together, right? Sometimes I've heard,
Yeah.
like, at least I think in Berkeley we
Industrial.
had this IE OR program.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, I think, yeah, you are right. If in industrial engineering, R would be better because it's a lot of statistical
Yeah.
computing, and Python is quite
Mm.
slow for statistical computing at a large scale. So R
Yeah.
might be better. Yeah, you're right. So yeah, that's the answer to that question. Thoughts on putting summary section in the resume? Uh, I don't, in general. To me, it just sounds like uh, glorifying yourself and describing yourself in detail. It's fine. I mean, I'm not against putting it. It's just that I don't, because I don't have the space to add the summary at the top, because my resume will flow out of that one page. Thoughts?
Some companies like ask you like why are you applying to this job when you're applying to companies in like in the US. I'm not sure about India, but when you're applying to companies in the US, they ask you why you're applying to that job, this job. So you can always write a nice summary like specific to that company in that place. So they can always read that.
Yeah.
So if you have space, like I haven't like from my experience I haven't seen many summary sections in resume like maybe very less, maybe 1 or 2%. But if that's your preference, then like go for it. Yeah, if you think it looks good, it's always a personal preference.
Yeah. Yeah, if you have space, it's good. But don't sacrifice like a project or something for it. For those 2 3 lines, I'll say.
I'll just quickly get my charger.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Um, I will take a question on, are research papers or publications that necessary for applying to masters? Um, so no, they're not that necessary for applying to masters, but most undergrads do not have publications. So if you do have one at a decent conference or have decent results, then it talks something about, it shows some skills that you have. So yeah, you should, if you have them at them, try to convert your undergrad projects into a paper. And if you do it, not many undergrads have it, so it definitely adds to your profile. Again, it's not a must. I know many people who have had great grad school admits without having a single publication. Yeah. While sending a resume for masters, should you send the master resume or the single page one? Hmm. Anything, Akshay?
Yeah, always a single page. Like nobody's gonna like read more than a page of your resume because it's usually the faculty members who are looking at your MS applications or maybe like doctoral students, PhD students. So they would like if they print it, they're just gonna look one side and they want to find like stuff that's relevant to the application.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
no more than one page.
Yeah. And no more than one page, and no more than what the university asks. So some universities say, upload a one page resume or upload a resume up to 2 pages. Follow those instructions. Do not write above that, whatever it may be. Okay. So, question for Raj. What was the proficiency level in Python when you were graduating from UG 1 year into masters? And yeah, so I think my Python was pretty good in my undergrad since I did some data science stuff also. And most of my labs in my undergrad were also in Python. I mean, I chose Python as an implementation language. Definitely increased in UC Berkeley because my like package skills increase in UC Berkeley. So I learned a lot of TensorFlow and PyTorch. So I used to code a lot with for deep learning. So my framework skills increased. Python skills more or less the same. It's basic programming, but my framework skills did increase. Uh, how much domain knowledge is required while applying to DSML jobs? If someone were to apply for an ML role, is it necessary to know the business model of e-commerce companies? What do you
I
think?
think that
Sure.
how much domain knowledge is required when applying to DSML jobs? I think when you're applying to jobs like it's always better to have domain knowledge, but it's not necessary, to be honest. People can get jobs at various companies they might not even have like any knowledge of. I know a lot of like people who got internships at an oil company, at a very famous oil company, and they had no idea like what like actually the business of that company is in. So you can always get a job, but also it depends company to company. For if someone were to apply to ML roles in Amazon and Walmart, I mean these are very popular companies, so you would already know like you can just go to a Medium article and know the business model of these e-commerce companies. It's like always it's pretty like similar. You can also know more about like how they do their DS and ML. Also these companies, all the big companies have their own blogs on how they're innovating, how they're researching in these areas, and how their business model works. You can just like search it on Google. And anyway, like um, if you are to interview with these companies, they expect you to have a little bit of knowledge, do your research before like you go in for the interview. So that's always better, but it's not necessary that you should know when you're applying, just putting in the application, your resume. Of course, when you interview, you should know what the company is doing and what your current team is focusing on.
Yeah, I think it's also a good idea to know the business model pertaining to that particular team that you're applying for. So in Amazon, if I'm applying for AWS, I should have an idea of AWS. If I'm applying for the e-commerce platform, I should know what that entails. If I'm applying in the Alexa team, I should know what that entails. Similarly for all of them. uh, you know, knowing the business model of these like tech giants is not easy. They have so many different work streams. So try to know at least the business model of the work stream that you are applying to. So if you're in ads, know how they work in general. Know the important parameters. Know the KPIs. Yeah. What things should be highlighted in the resume when applying for MIS? So I think, yeah, our program is pretty close to MIS, the program that me and Akshay were a part of. So it's almost MIS. We call it MIMS. Um, I think the skills that should be highlighted are how you manage data, how you handle data, and how you handle information in general. So talk about your programming, talk about, any kind of qualitative or quantitative research you do, and talk about how you derive insights from that information. Does that sound okay, Akshay? Do you have it's difficult to
Yeah.
like answer this question directly without
Uh,
knowing your experiences in detail, but
I,
in general, yeah.
talking about MIS programs, so what matters is how these MIS programs are structured. So if you compare, like on the top of my head, there's a MIS program at University of Washington. There's a MIS program at TAMU. There's a MIS program at some
Indiana, I
University of
think.
Chicago, I think.
It's Indiana and
And
Bloomington also, I think.
yeah. So every MIS program is very different. Like the MIS program at TAMU is not very flexible. So you would be studying a fixed set of subjects. From what I know, like from 2 or 3 years ago, and at Berkeley it's like super flexible. So you can do whatever you want to do. You can go into product management, and you can do. So it depends. Like if you want to go into more like uh, special information systems role, like more towards risk or data centric roles, I would call it. Then you want to have like more machine learning data stuff in there. But if you want to go into like something in consulting, let's say MIS programs, people go into consulting. So you want to structure your skills and focus on more consulting kind of skills. So it depends like what you want to do. MIS programs are very different. Each university has their own requirements.
Yeah, makes sense. And as you said, there are lots of things that MIS can lead to. It can lead to software engineering, data science, research positions, UI UX, social sciences research. So keep in mind what you like, what you're applying to, and highlight those skills accordingly. If I've converted my projects into publications, do I need to mention them in the project section? I'll say just mention them in the project section and add a link to your publication. That's the best
Yeah,
way of also save space. So don't have to mention the same thing twice. So just mention, like, add a link to the publication right there.
yeah. You can always write the name of the publication it was published in to like highlight it, bold it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Next is, should we frame our resumes keeping in mind our LinkedIn profiles and not repeat stuff that no. When you apply to a company, you don't really expect the recruiters or the employers to look at your LinkedIn profile before calling you for interviews. So whatever you want the recruiter to see, it should be on your resume. They're not gonna look. Most of the people do not even look at your LinkedIn profiles. They might look before like making a decision or something. Some people before an interview might look at your LinkedIn profile before the interview, but like rarely it would happen that the recruiter is like clicking on that link of LinkedIn in your resume and going through the profile. It rarely happens. So
Yeah.
mention everything you want them to read on your resume itself.
Yeah. I think the exception is if you apply through LinkedIn for a job, in which
Mhm.
case they automatically share your profile, and then
Yeah.
they're likely to review the profile right there because that's how they get your applications. So
And also, LinkedIn also makes you upload the resume when you're applying through even LinkedIn.
yeah,
So
yeah, I think, yeah. So have your LinkedIn up to date as much as possible. Describe, do if you think that due to space constraints you can write only 2 bullets for a particular project. If there's something additional that you think should be added, you put it up in the LinkedIn if you want to. Or if some experiences that your LinkedIn can be an example of your master resume or master projects, right? So put the relevant ones in the resume, have everything that you want to show in your LinkedIn profile. So anyone who sees a LinkedIn profile gets a complete picture. There's no size limit on the LinkedIn profile anyway, or the length limit on the LinkedIn profile.
I think those are the only questions we had. So
Yeah.
should we end it?
Yeah, I think
Yep.
we can end it. So we,
Yeah.
me and Akshay, we are planning to do more videos of this kind, not necessarily live, but we will interview some people. We do have experience in data science and machine learning, but we also want to get people who have some experience in product management, program management, research, privacy, and sort of talk about what skills are required for their jobs, how to go about preparing for the interviews for those jobs, and how to ultimately land those jobs. So
Yep.
yeah, we are planning to do more such videos. So
Yeah.
thank you to everyone who joined, and if you have any questions, feel free to either comment or reach out to us through LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks everyone. Bye.
Thanks.
Yeah. Hope this was helpful.
Yes, I hope this was helpful too.